The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by BASF and Pride Seeds.
So the dry weather, of course, had a huge impact on the corn crop as well, and that's one of the places where we don't get the same ability to kind of recoup or compensate, if you will, as we do in the soybean crop. In soybeans, as we showed you, they can reflower as long as they're long season. You get that opportunity, or they'll fill one or two more beans in the pod. With corn, once it's pollinated, that's all you can get. So the rain has helped, there's no question. Essentially, the way I like to phrase it with corn is that the rain stopped the yield loss. Every day we went without rain, the yield just kept slipping a little bit more and a little bit more. And I should just kind of caveat that with saying that not all of Ontario was under severely dry conditions. Yes, many areas were, but in corn, we kind of got our brain around the fact that there's about 20% of the province of Ontario that actually got just-in-time rainfall, always seem to get enough rainfall. So if you go south and west of London, for example, or north of Toronto, they are looking at some of the best crops that they've ever had. They could well have record crops. Of course, you go on the sands around Tillsonburg or Dorchester, some of those lighter soil types, or the really, really heavy clays of the Niagara Peninsula. It was so dry there, and those soils are prone to moisture stress to begin with, so those crops are dismal. So we kind of play it that 20% of the crop in Ontario is above average, just looking awesome. 20% of the crop in Ontario had irreparable damage, and those yields will be 30 or 40% of normal. They're quite poor. And the other 60% of the corn crop, it was close to average, and then as it didn't rain after July 25th, those yields just kept ratcheting down slowly. So right now, we're actually standing in front of a great crop of corn. This looks like it could have tremendous yield potential, but we're still seeing the impact. This is one of those crops that would be in the 60% category, and you can start to see what's happened with the corn. So there's a cob here that, gosh, if every cob in the cornfield was like this, we have 240 or 250 bushel corn. That's amazing. So that corn plant definitely got enough moisture. We have another corn cob here where you can see that this one, it's pretty good, but we lost the tip. So the tip didn't pollinate, and that's exactly what happens when we're under that moisture stress. We start to get into situations where we don't get good pollination, and so we don't have the same yield potential there. Now the upside of the rains with cobs like this is that at least now the kernels that are on the cob, the kernels that did set, can fill properly and give us that size that we want and the bushel weight. The longer it didn't get rainfall, the smaller those kernels would have been. And then of course we get into situations like this, where this particular plant was under a lot of moisture stress when it pollinated. It obviously didn't pollinate very well at all, and so the yield on that, we'd call that a nubbin or worse, and most likely the yield on this cob, even though it looks like a few kernels, is 0, because that cob is most likely going to go right straight through the stripping plates when we try to combine this crop, and so really severely impacted by that moisture stress.